Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen. I'm reporting live from the internet battle we're having right now because the internet keeps going in and out in East Texas at my little cabin in the woods, Murphy's Law. So if by any chance I disappear, I have to go on, reboot my computer, get back online. So just keep talking amongst yourselves, girls. And we have my friend Deborah, who is a flight attendant who is on her way to Lisbon, Spain at an airport, and she lives in New Jersey. So welcome to Amy Hill Hearth, and we're going to be discussing her amazing novel on a true story. It's called Silent Came the Monster. It's Shark Week with the International
Right.
Pulpwood and Timber guys, because this is a story that happened at the turn of the century, and it's about the same time do you know that the Galveston flood hit that
Yes.
killed, all those people? It's like, what, we think that we're having natural disasters now, but it's an ever-ending cycle here. We just have
Yeah.
to remember that life cycles around. But before we even begin, I just want to tell you a little bit about Amy. Amy and I go way back because, first of all, I was one of the first people to read the Delaney Sisters, which was the wonderful story about the women that lived to be, I don't know what you call 100 years old. It's not octogenarian.
They're
Is
centenarians. They're super centenarians because they live well past 100. So they're super
well,
centenarians.
it was made into a film, and but you have to read the book because it's an incredible story. And I'm just going to give a little bit about your background, Amy, because there's so many new Pulpwood Queens from all over the world. My biggest watchers right now are from India. So I'm just going to tell you that Amy lives on the Jersey Shore, which is on the Eastern Seaboard, everybody. And she is a New York Times, Washington Post, and US Today best-selling author and a Peabody Award winner. She writes nonfiction as well as fiction and books for both adults and young readers, but this is her first thriller. It's a novel. Her areas of interest include American history, love history, elder wisdom, and forgotten or little unknown stories, which that is exactly what I look for. I look for the stories that have not been told before so we can have unique and new perspectives. And I don't know what this is. Her ancestors include a Lenni Lenape.
Oh, Lenape.
What is that?
Delaware Indians. They're more commonly known as Delaware Indians, but the name of the people were Lenape.
Well, I just learned something new today. See, that's why you always have to turn into our book club meetings, because you're always going to learn something new. And you can read more about Amy on her website, www.amyhillhearth.com. And she's been blogging on the Pulpwood Queen Presents panel, where we feature our authors of the week. And you're more than willing to go on there if you miss this and watch this on the YouTube channel, where I'll post it on our channel. You can go on there and read her posts and ask her questions. She can check in and out this week, but she's our featured author. And I'm so happy you're back. We've done events together. Your husband is this wonderful pastor who I kind of made the Pulpwood Queen pastor, because we're all Methodist. And but I celebrate all religions, all cultures, all peoples of the world. Here comes author Jeffrey Dale Lofton.
Good.
He's in Washington, D.C.
Oh,
Dale, Jeffrey Dale, great to have you here.
hello. Hi.
And he's just, he's close to you. You guys need to get to know each other, because Jeffrey is one of our authors that's going to be featured this year coming up for Red Clay Susie. And he's doing events all over, book tour. And he always brings wonderful insight to our book club meetings, and hopefully more will be joining us. But as I was explaining, Jeffrey, my internet is still iffy because Verizon's still working on it. So if I go off, I will just hang on. I'll be back on. Just talk amongst yourselves.
We'll continue
And
on.
also, for everybody that is watching this later on YouTube, I am not letting anybody on my channel anymore unless you're a member or you are a friend of Amy's. And I'll ask her if you're a friend, because we've had a few unexpected surprises by letting people in. We had somebody do this bot thing that scared the dickens out of me, and that we won't even go into the what happened that one time with the man, will we, Jeffrey?
No.
It was awful. He was so afraid that somebody was trying to get back on last week. They didn't have a photo and they didn't have a name, and I wouldn't let him in.
Yeah.
I will not let anybody in. So tonight, let's get a little bit of background about you, Amy, and how this writing life started. I mean, you know, I picked your last novel. I think it was your last novel as that was set in Florida, and it's got a real long name. Do you have the book with you by any
Miss
chance?
Dreamsville.
Okay.
Miss Dreamsville and the Collier County Women's Literary Society.
It was a great, great book.
That's a long time ago now.
It's been a
That
long
was
time.
fun. That book is Southern, they're calling some of it, sometimes they call it women's fiction, sometimes they call it Southern fiction, sometimes they call it social commentary, because there's a lot of deep stuff tucked in there, even though it was fun to write. There's some heavy stuff worked in.
Everybody should read it. Go to her website and you'll read all about it. But tell us a little bit about you. I mean, I know you've been writing for a long time, and how did this all get started for people? A lot of authors jump on here, so they really want to know, how did this all begin for you?
Well, I started in the newspaper business back in 1981. When newspapers were still in their glory, and the very idea that they would be staggering, they would be evaporating, was just out of the question. So I was a daily newspaper reporter. I worked in Massachusetts. I worked in Florida, where I met my husband. And I did work at the New York Times for a couple of years. I had grown up, my family moved quite a bit when I was growing up. My formative years were in South Carolina. So I'm really an East Coast kind of person, you know, I can sort of move anywhere from Florida to the Carolinas to New Jersey to New England. I was writing a story for the New York Times in 1991. It was a story I wanted to do on my own time, and my editors weren't really keen on me doing it. I had like 7 other assignments, but we didn't have cell phones, so nobody knew where you were, ever. It was fantastic. No one ever knew where you might call in and say, oh, I'm in the Bronx, and nobody knew where you were. So I went and I did this interview with these women I wanted to, that I'd heard about. And they were the Delaney Sisters, and they were unknown at the time. I did this piece about them for the New York Times. And they were both over 100 years old, and they were sisters, and they'd always lived together. And they were amazing. So I did a story about them for the Times, got a great response to the story. It was in a Sunday paper. And next thing I knew, I got a phone call. This doesn't happen anymore, I don't think. Actually, didn't even happen then. I got a phone call from a book publisher saying, we loved your story in the Times. You want to expand it into a book? So I was like, oh, okay. This is, you know, I was like 32 years old. I'm like, yeah, all right, sure. Anyway, we decided, the sisters and I decided to do this book. I wanted it to be done as an oral history. So they were speaking for themselves. Their father was born into slavery. Their mother was a Black woman, but she could have passed for white and decided not to. Very complicated family history, fascinating. Both of these women went to college and had graduate degrees. And this is an era when, you know, women in general, let alone Black women, didn't have opportunities like that. So they were from this poor family, but they had grown up on a college campus, St. Augustine's in North Carolina. And they had this determination to make it. So they were amongst the very, very few who were able to break through the barriers. They decided never to get married because they didn't. And the reason I used to say this is so funny. The reasons we have lived this long is because we didn't get married. We never had husbands to worry us to death. So don't tell me that isn't the cutest thing you ever heard. They were amazing. They were incredible. They did yoga. So anyway, we did this book, and I think, oh, I'm doing it for the sake of history. My Times editor's like, well, when are you coming back? What are you doing? Oh, this book, nobody's going to buy this book. No one's going to buy this book. I heard this a million times. We sold millions and millions of copies of this book. We were on the New York Times bestseller list for 117 weeks.
That's incredible. That's
We had
incredible.
Broadway play.
Yes, you and I
Broadway
loved it.
play.
I watched part of it. Yes.
The sisters. We sat in the box seats, and then we had a film with Ruby Dee and all these wonderful people, and they added me as a character. They added the writer, me, as a character, played by Amy Madigan.
Yeah.
So,
right.
so anyway,
Can you watch it anywhere on the streaming services? Is it somewhere?
You can get it all over the place. You can get, yeah.
The Delaney Sisters.
And you can get it, rent it from Amazon if you want to, or you can get it all over the place.
But read the book. Read the book.
It goes on and on. The sisters left me in charge of all that. So I just had earlier this year an updated ebook edition and a brand new audiobook with Robin Miles doing the narration. It's wonderful. So anyway, it lives on. It lives on. It's the strangest thing.
I thank you. Thank you for that.
So after that, I just kind of felt like, yeah, I think I'm having too much fun to go back to. I love the newspaper business, don't get me wrong, but it was just so irresistible to have the freedom of writing books. And so I just continued writing books, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I like to try new things. I'm like Kathy that way. It's not good. In some ways they'll tell you, don't do this, don't jump around a lot. But if I'm not writing something that inspires me and interests me, it has to be something I feel passionate about. I don't worry too much about how does it fit, in terms of genres. I've always kind of moved around with genres, and I think it's important to me, at least as a writer, to keep trying new things and push myself. I mean, I've never written a thriller, but there we all were in lockdown during the pandemic, and I thought, this is now's the time to do that, because it felt like that. We were all so, I'm looking at my window and I'm thinking, I can see the water. I'm thinking, maybe this is what the people felt like when that shark, the sea monster, showed up. They didn't know what it was, and they were terrified, and it wrecked their lives for a while. And people react to a new threat in the same way. They reacted the same way to this great white shark that they didn't think could be here, as people reacted to COVID.
Exactly.
There was terror, there was denial, major denial, defiance, disbelief, utter confusion, and even conspiracy theories. Once I started reading about the conspiracy theories, I said, oh my God, I have to write this. People were saying it's a German U-boat.
That's the funniest part. Yeah.
A German U-boat. Okay. So it was really fun to dive into it. And the parallels, I think it was my way of dealing with COVID, and the lockdown, and working through my feelings of what that was like. And it really makes you understand that people don't change.
No.
We're the same as we were.
Did you have any trouble writing? So many people have said to me, oh, I couldn't write at all during COVID. I couldn't read. I couldn't write. I just felt like I was in this, limbo. And I understood it, but I got more work done during COVID than I've ever done in my entire life.
I have to tell you, same here. I wrote every single day. There were no distractions.
Right.
I mean, my husband was here, and that's a distraction. The dog was here, and that's a distraction. But in terms of my friends saying, "You want to go out to lunch, or should we go for a walk?" Nothing.
No.
And I just don't. I worked really, really hard on it, and I just wanted to do it. And yeah, I'm with you. I know. One of my friends up here was saying to me, okay, because I don't usually talk about what I'm writing in detail until after I'm done. So I was telling them what I had done with this book, and then my agent was surprised, but he sold it, and so it was great. Okay, she said, okay, so let me get this straight. Well, we were all learning how to make, dough, and we were all doing stuff in our kitchens. You were writing a new novel. And I said, it sounds terribly productive, doesn't it? But it's just what I felt like doing. When I feel like doing something and I'm really into it, I'm like you that way, Kathy. There's no stopping.
It's just like you have the laser focus, Yeah.
110% in. Give it my best. If I don't care about it, it's like, ugh. So that's why I figured a book in particular, as everybody knows, it takes a long time to do. It ought to be something you're really passionate about.
It has to be, because it's so hard to get published today. If you don't have a story that's just burning you up, there's
Right.
no chance, so that's what I look for, is I look for stories like yours. To me, I don't want any of my authors put in a box. I want them to surprise me, and you always do. And I feel like that's the way life is. It's about change. Why should we write the same thing? If you look at Louisa May Alcott, she never wrote the same kind of books. Even people like Margaret Mitchell, or it's very rare that some people get in a genre and they stick it till they die, and that's kind of formulaic to me. But I just want to know that great story, and this is fantastic. And it just came out, right?
May 16th.
Yeah, so it hasn't been out that long.
No.
And it's got a great, beautiful cover too. It reminds me of summer. It'd make a great beach read, but I doubt if you'll go into the water.
I will tell you something. I'm really pleased. In particular, this one part of New Jersey, Long Beach Island, is 18 miles long. It's Barrier Island. I don't think there's anybody there who hasn't read it. I mean, they are all over it. And in the winter, there are 5,000 people there. In the summer, there's like 300,000 people there. I can't keep up over there. I could do nothing but just communicate with them, and they're lovely people. But I really wasn't sure. Are people going to say, I'm not reading that? But there are a lot of people who, I guess, they feel it's been 107 years since this happened. It's not typical shark behavior at all. I mean, I think there was probably something wrong with the shark.
And a mental disorder.
Yeah, it got struck by a U-boat. I don't know, but it was not functioning right. Maybe it was sick. I don't know. But there's never been anything like it since anywhere in the world.
And if I lived near you, I'd say, Amy, let's get our bathing suits on, and let's get a couple of cases of books, and let's just park ourselves on that strip and just, hawk those books, man. I can't think of anything. If I was at the beach and I saw somebody wrote a book like that, I'd buy it in a heartbeat.
People have very different views about it. I wasn't sure, and I've learned enough in the book business that you can never count on anything. And what you think is going to happen won't happen, and so I just go with the flow. This is my 11th book. I just put it out there, and see what happens. And the sharky people like it too. The shark, there are lots of shark groups on Facebook and so on.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. That's funny.
What?
I didn't know. I didn't know that.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I knew sharks were a thing. I knew they were a big thing.
Wow.
They are huge. I mean, people have their lives revolve around.
I know the
sharks.
sea turtles, there's a big thing, but I never heard there was a shark thing. But you did something really unique and different and so smart. You did book signings at airports. And that
Yes.
was brilliant because the first thing I do when I have a little layover is I go look at what they got, and I pick up a book to take on a plane. And oftentimes by the time I get, especially if it's overseas, I'll leave it for the next passenger. But that's brilliant, and it went really well, huh?
It went really well, and it's not common. It's the first time I've ever done a book signing this was at Newark, and it's very interesting. I think that a lot of where there are bookstores at airports, they don't really want to be in the book. They don't really want to be in the business of doing this because there's security issues, and then it's not really what they're there for. This was more of a special event that the airport did for their employees, and at the same time, I was parked out in front of all these Germans were coming from Berlin, and I got all the people walking through the airport, but they had really done this as a special event for Terminal B at the airport. And it was so interesting because that's my airport. And I haven't really ever thought about it this way, but I really feel differently about it now. I met pilots and I met baggage handlers, and I just thought, oh, these books are bringing all these people together, who probably never talk to each other, or custodians, and just an air traffic controller. And I was sort of like, don't you need to get, back to work? And he was really chatty, and it was really like a community. They have 25,000 employees.
Oh my God. You may have had the biggest book signing this summer. Yeah.
It was amazing. And then what they did was they did take some boxes of books. I signed books for JFK and for Philly. So Deb, you may see. I don't know the name of the store yet, where they've shipped them off to there. I'll find out. But
I will take a picture for you, Amy. If I see them, I will take a picture for you.
Oh, good. Okay.
If you see one in Spain, let us know.
She's going. Where are you going? Lisbon?
I'm going to Lisbon, but we just got on the airplane and the catering's not done, so I have a few minutes. But as soon as the people start getting on,
okay.
You guys, for those watching, she's a flight attendant headed to Lisbon, Spain, and now there's a Pulpwood Queen that is gets the gold tier of the day. So thank you, Deb. Have a great flight.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll see you. I'll be in touch. We'll be in touch. Okay.
She's on Facebook and she's got a long name. I'll get you connected. But I have a big idea for you because years ago we took the Pulpwood Queens on a cruise, a Royal Caribbean cruise, to the Bahamas, and I took 6 authors. And the captain had a party for us at the 360 Lounge, and every night they let us do book signings in the gift shop. And you know who bought most of the books? The employees.
Very interesting.
And this was a ship that had nearly 6,000 and some people on it. And so I think they had hundreds of employees, but the employees go, our library here is limited. And if we're out for 8 months at a time. So, they were buying up all our books. And then I had a few left and I just donated them to the crew because, they needed good reading material. So, maybe we need to do another Pulpwood Queen cruise down the line and get our authors to come, and it paid for their trip because they sold so many books. But we had I think 35 of us went on this cruise, and I had a great time.
Oh, wow. Doesn't that sound like fun, huh?
It was a lot of fun. My daughter just went on a cruise not too long ago because we do the Royal Caribbean, and I think we might need to wait another year because there's still a lot of things that are, not that they aren't taking every precaution, but I think, you just got to be careful with travel right now. And no matter what, there's delays,
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
all kinds of things. And Debbie's right in the midst of it, being a flight attendant. So we've got all this going on with your book. You're doing the book signings. Have you got any more tours or any places you're going now?
Well, I've got a bunch of things. One of the nice things about doing a book about where you live is it's so
Right.
easy.
Yeah.
I did a lot of Zoom. As you know, Kathy, my brother was very ill with cancer. So I didn't want to book any kind of a tour of like travel tour and then maybe have to cancel. So I did a lot of Zoom. I did a Zoom with Warwick's bookstore in
Great
Diego and what's that library in Cleveland, Cuyahoga County. And anyway, I did quite a lot, and then I could there's more than I can handle here where I live. So I'm just gonna keep cranking along and
well, if you get a lull, our Zoom convention is in January, the 12th through the 14th, and we're really excited about it. But family always comes first. I don't care, it just does. So take care of yourself and your family, and I'm praying for you, and I'm so sorry for your loss. It's just been a really trying time for, I think, every single one of us in the world is dealing with some kind of, loss and hardship. And I think that's why we all need to kind of lock hands together and forge ahead. So this is amazing. So are you still writing, or are you just kind of taking a little break from the writing right now?
I'm doing so much promotion that I haven't started to write anything new yet. I've never been one of these people who could really, I don't know how people do it, where they're really writing a book while they're still talking nonstop about the other book. Well, I really like to be left alone when I'm writing. And I mean, I could probably schedule it in, but I have enough going on with my family. And I just have so much happening. I just can't keep up with it. So
I feel the
that's always a
same
good
way.
sign. When everything's quiet, that's a bad sign, right? As I always said, the book business, when you can't keep up with it, that's a good sign.
I also think that as authors, we put a lot of things upon ourselves that most people don't. I mean, we're hard taskmasters, because every day I get so discouraged because I didn't get this done and that done and that done. And so what I do is I sit down and write what I did, and I feel a little better, but then I toss and turn about what I didn't get done during the night. And I don't remember. The only time I've ever not done that was when I went back to school, which I'm doing this fall, because I didn't have time to ever think about time,
You
so
just went from one thing to the next. Yeah.
So but I'm just so excited to have you back in the fold, and to get this book out there. And I know that here in Texas, and they're working on, I don't know, updating the Verizon wireless, but it's not just, I have two wireless. I have Verizon, I have E-Tex, and they're both, I don't know, I feel like the cosmos is got, the stars aren't aligning right. But I do know that if we wait long enough, it'll all work out. Now, once you get through all this, do you have some stories kind of?
Yeah, I have a lot of things I want to write. I'm ready to go when I can switch my focus. So
because there's so many crazy stories out there.
Yeah, they're great stories. Yeah.
I keep hearing, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. I just saw a story yesterday about a veteran who was at the cemetery, for, I don't know if it's Memorial Day or what, he was there, all the flags were out, and his daughter shows up and she gives him his childhood lunchbox. And he opens it up and he's in tears because he hadn't seen what was in it for 40 years. He'd been saving things in it. And there was photographs of him in the service. And there was a flag that was just ripped to shreds. And then his Purple Heart medal. And he was in tears and he goes, I just thought they were lost forever. And she goes, where'd you find them? And I think these stories are stories that we can all relate to. We all find things that bring back memories. I can remember when I was reading this book, I thought about when Jaws came out. It came out when I was I a sophomore in college? Anyway, I went home for the summer to lifeguard at Fall River State Park, which is a freshwater lake. And I was always the first one to arrive in the morning. And I'd look out at that lake and I just get the eeriest feeling. What if somebody came up here swimming last night and something happened? Maybe not a shark, but, I was afraid a dead body would float up. And but it put a fear. I never had a fear of water until Jaws came out. But I'm real careful if I swim in the ocean. But they say most attacks come in shallow water. So.
Well, you want some of my tips that I've learned?
Yes, let's hear some tips. Yeah.
Because I'll tell you one thing that drives me a little crazy. You see, people will ask, usually marine biologists, and I know several, and they're wonderful, and so on, but they really don't want to talk about shark attacks. So it's actually a little hard for people to get basic information about
right.
to prevent it. Okay. You don't want to ever go in the water when there are seals, which we have along the coast. If there's a seal in the water, don't go in or along the beach ever, because the great whites are looking to eat them.
Oh my God.
Yes, and then another thing is don't go in the water if somebody's playing with a dog. If the dog,
the water?
That's right.
Because it's
if
too
the
much
dog is splashing around and swimming, and there, here on the beach where we are, there's one guy I always tell all the time with a retriever. He's like, this dog will not stop. He has a tennis racket and a ball and just hits it for like the whole time he's trying to read because the dog is obsessed. And I watch this dog bound into the water. Well, the problem with dogs is, how they swim. They're like
dog paddle.
To a shark, even, a long, significant distance away, the way that the dogs swim seems to them like an injured mammal. So you see somebody, don't go in the water there. Another thing, if you see somebody fishing, or if you look out and you see a fishing boat, if you can see a fishing boat, don't go in the water. If you are on the shore and you happen to notice sort of ripples in the water, like a big school of fish.
Yeah.
Or you might see a huge flock of seabirds that come down to where there's a huge,
yeah.
That's not a good thing. Stay away from that. Some other things are don't swim alone. Now, I don't know about you all, but when I remember in South Carolina, there were signs by the beach, some places that said, don't swim alone. And I always thought, okay, well, you go with a buddy because you could get a cramp in your leg and you could drown. So you always should go with someone. That's not what it means. It means there are sharks.
Wow.
Sharks go after, the more people you're in the water with, the better. sharks really don't, first of all, they don't really want to attack a person anyway. We're not very tasty to them. We're too bony and so on. It's rare that they would ever attack two people together. And even the more people, the less likely. Dusk and especially dusk, but also dawn.
Danger.
Sharks are more active. So some of the old timers also say around here, stay away from piers, docks.
Yeah.
Swim right there, because sometimes actually there are certain types of sharks that like to they do hang out like right underneath docks.
Probably fish that get under there, you know.
Yeah, that's right. And people throw, they'll go fishing and they'll dump stuff, fish and trails. So here's something that a lot of people don't know. Wear a bathing suit that is similar to your skin color. Don't wear a bathing suit that is in contrast. The more, for instance, as white as I am, I should not wear a black or navy blue bathing suit. My friends who are African American, they should not wear a light colored bathing suit. It's the contrast. It attracts the attention of sharks. And another thing that's important is jewelry. No bright, shiny jewelry. Leave it at home. Rings, all of it.
Wow. Well, I've never heard any of these things before.
Really?
So
See, they don't talk about that. They should just tell people this stuff. I don't know why, and I end up talking about it all the time. Maybe that's why it's so popular.
Well, they say the chance of you getting bit by a shark are so low compared to a traffic accident, you know. But hey, it's only going to take one chomp, okay?
That's right. The problem is, and I have somebody in the book say this, the problem is, even though it's not very likely, it's so terrible.
Right.
And even if you don't die, it's so terrible. And it's so terrible for everybody who witnesses it and so on, that it's overwhelming to people. It's very frightening. Usually, see, we have these great whites that can tag them now, right? They fit plenty of way to tag them, and they have names. The ones that are tagged, there's one named Ironbound, and I follow him. He's out here about 30 miles out. And he's on his way. Now in New Jersey, usually some of them are 250 miles out. And they're on their way. They'll go right past Cape Cod, just where they've had a lot of issues. And they go where they're headed is Nova Scotia. They go to Nova Scotia every summer. So they come through New Jersey right around now. I mean, it's amazing to follow them. And they go places nobody ever knew. Blair, my husband, was brought up in Naples in Collier County. And I told him, I said, did you know there are a lot of great white sharks in the Gulf? He said, no way, no way. And he was in Civic Air Patrol, they would go out in the evening and see if there was anybody that needed help or the dusk. He said, we never saw anything like that. I said, well, they're out there and they can track them, see where they are. They go all the way up around, into the Panhandle and come back down. It's really amazing.
And he's from Naples. And my co-host for Girlfriend Weekend this year lives there. Jeffrey Lawrence Matthews is going to be my co-host, and he lives in Naples.
He does?
Yes, he does. And you would love him. He's a doll. He's actually from New Hampshire, but he's, kind of.
Nobody from Naples is really from Naples.
No.
That's the way it is with Naples. So
I have another author. I think Barbara Davis is coming in. She's from Naples too. So it's amazing how all these Pulpwood Queen connections, between Deborah and you and Kim Orwanko and all these people, I can almost go anywhere and find somebody I know. And I actually love that because it makes you feel you know, since I'm by myself, it makes me feel a lot safer. But anyway, we all like to be scared. And, you know, that's why they have Shark Week every week in the summer to watch all these shark movies. But, you know, I think this one will be another one. And there really aren't that many books about
No,
this subject matter. So,
no,
you need to
there
check
are.
it out, everybody. Here's a great book for you to take on vacation or staycation, wherever you may be. And so you have things in the future that you're working on. What is your, you know, if you look at your life's work, what is your main goal that you want to do? Because, you know, I've been thinking about that a lot, you know, as I've lost so many people. I think about what is it that I want to do? Is there anything in particular that you uh, have this want to share that you want to do?
Um, I have a couple writing projects I really want to do, but I can't say what they are because I'm
That's
one of these
okay.
messes me up. I used to think there was something wrong with me about this. And then I read an interview of Denzel Washington. And
Yes.
somebody asked him, so when you go home when you've been acting and you go home and you talk to your wife about what you did that day? He said, are you kidding? No
No
way.
way.
If I did that, I'd be talking out all of my energy. He said, if I don't talk about it, it's all in here and it stays in here. And that's what I think I'm like, because I will go to sleep when I have a plot problem, because I don't outline. When I have a plot problem, I realize I have a plot problem. I go to bed, I wake up, I figured it out. My brain
Me
can't
too.
on. Kathy,
Me
you are separate
too.
at birth.
I mean, I wake up and I go, oh,
I said, you wake up like that's how I came up with my title. I woke up. I said,
oh,
I
Silent
got
Being
the
the
title.
monster.
So
Uh-huh.
if you keep it all in your head, I think you're like marinating all the time. And whereas opposed to if you talk it out and talk it out, I do not understand. And, you know, I don't mean to be critical of it, but I'm just astonished at people who get together with other people with their drafts and they talk about it and talk about it and they dissect it. It's like, are you kidding? I would never do that. I have one friend that I show a manuscript to, and the dog sometimes hears passages. And the husband, because he's you know, he's here and he's smart and he's a guy, so it's nice to get that point of view.
Yeah.
I think people are in danger of just running it into the ground. I mean, to me, it becomes like a committee. People might tell you, "Oh, I like this," or "I don't like that." I wouldn't want. I have faith in myself that I can do it and trust that I can do it and that something will tell me. And I just think that wouldn't work for me. And maybe that's also why some people take a long time to write a book.
That's
I know
me. I take a
12 years.
long time. Yeah.
I mean, I'm usually I mean, I'm not as fast as some people for sure, but I would think that if you brought a lot of cooks into your kitchen, it would slow the whole process down. Because when
Yeah.
you start saying, maybe I should, you start doubting yourself, right?
Yeah.
No, that's
That's why I think we've probably both got more things done during COVID. There's nobody to tell us, you know? And I feel kind of the same way. I don't really, I made the mistake of sharing some of my life. And then all of a sudden a movie came out and my daughter went to it. She said, Mom, have you seen this movie? She goes, well, it's so funny. It's about a woman who goes back to school and she's got a daughter named Maddie. And I go, what? I go, yeah. And
Hmm.
I had been talking about if I go back to school, it'd be funny if I went through Rush because I wasn't, my parents wouldn't let me, or my mother wouldn't let me when I was younger because she thought it was too expensive. And I said, I always wanted, you know, I think my life would have been a lot easier if I'd been not so alone in college, if I'd had other girls to study with and live with, and like my sisters. And I said, I haven't. And so that's what this movie was about, was this girl goes through Rush. And I just thought, that's just too, and she said that her and her boyfriend were writing dialogue. That's exactly what you say, Mom. You always say big time. And, you know, and I go, really? and I watched it, and I loved the movie, but I thought, it really wasn't my story. It was kind of farce, a big farce thing. But at the same time, I learned to keep my mouth shut about stuff, because if you don't, I think
Yes.
sometimes those things get out and they go, well, I can do that. And, you know, but nobody can tell your own story the way you do. So that's why I held back on coming out with the Pulpwood Queen Goes Back to School, because I wanted it to have more. I don't want it to be a funny story. I want it to be a story about that inspires people. And I'm not talking about it because
Yeah, I think it's wise, especially in the way the world works today. I don't know. I learned, maybe this is part of my training as a reporter, because I did that for 10 years before I even started on this other, my book career. You generally just didn't talk much about what you're working on, because somebody could steal your idea. And people would
exactly.
do that. They would do that.
Yeah. And,
Oh,
and
if they thought you had a great lead on something.
well, I actually know an author that happened to, stole her story almost exactly verbatim, and a librarian caught it. And
Wow. Yeah.
I'll tell you about it later because I know the whole story. But her book ended up becoming a New York Times bestseller. They both did, but they were the exact same story. And,
Yeah. Oh,
and it was fiction based on a newspaper story. So you know, you can't, anything that was factual in the book, you know, well, it's common knowledge, but there were
right.
so many things in the book that she made up that was copied that
Oh, boy.
yeah. Yeah, well, it's a big battle. And this is happening more and more. I go, the biggest crimes today are things like this. And I
Yeah.
think that's a story. In fact, one of the things I wish somebody write it is, you know, now that we're on the internet and social media, we get these men that come on our site. Oh, I saw your picture and you're
Yeah.
so pretty. You are such, and I
Yeah,
love what you're doing. And would you be my friend? And I
right.
thought, and this
Mhm.
one guy, I said, I just decided I was going to get to the bottom of it. And I said, you know, I said, so what made you reach out to me? And then I said, I'll tell you what, if you can prove to me who you are, I would really like to talk to you about this. And he disappeared.
Right.
It's just, you know, why, but I get sometimes 4 or 5 of those a day. And I finally put up a post and I said, listen, don't ask to be my friend. If you're not my friend, I'm not going to let you know, if you're
Yeah.
not an author or a book club member or a
Yeah.
family member, and all my family's already on there, I go, you're not going to get in. So quit asking. And they do it in such, and then you notice that I did find out that the they take a long time in answering you is because they're going to Google to translate what you said because they don't even speak English.
Oh, no.
So you're getting these
Oh, dear.
cryptic messages back where it doesn't quite, you know, the wording is different. And that's, but the guy said, oh, I don't speak English. So I go to Google. There's a Google app to translate. I go, who knew? But I think it's a fascinating story is how desperate would you have to be in life? And, you know, but I kind of want to know the story behind these people that do that, because what would make you so, you know, want to do that? I don't know. It's beyond me. But I think that you've got a great book, and I think this book will be one that everybody will be, every time they go to the beach, they're going to want to pull out and read again. And it would be a great story for a movie, which is what I say about almost every book I pick, because I see books visually. Do you write
Yeah,
visually?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you write every day? And is it in the
With this
morning?
book I did. And then I would get up and write and, you know, probably 6 hours or so.
Wow.
Any
That's
more than that, and I would be just too tired. It would kill you, or you know how much energy it takes, right? I mean, and the better you're writing, the more energy it takes. It's sort of like, I read a story once about surgeons describing what it's like for them. Sometimes when they've done a very complicated operation, it feels like 5 minutes went by. And doesn't it feel that way when we're writing? And so if
And
it's been
painting.
going really well, you're like, what? It's 4:30 and I just started. There's a kind of a trance that you go into almost, where you're so hyper focused on something that you don't realize time's going by, and you're producing great work. But it does take energy. It's draining physically. I mean, I love to write. I'm not one of these people who suffers with my writing. I really love to write. And I don't know. I didn't realize when I was growing up that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a librarian. And my parents thought that was great. That's going to be a librarian. Then when I went to college, I kept flopping around. I was in the sociology major, a psych major, history major, English major, blah, blah, blah. Did not know what I was doing. And it was my dad. I was really unhappy. And then my dad said to me, I was having breakfast with him, and my mom was off doing something. And he said, there's one thing in common with everything. And whenever you get an A, it's because in many of your classes, no matter what it is, it's because you're happy. And whatever it is, whether it's a history class or psychology or whatever, there's a writing assignment is the main thing. And he said, maybe you should think about becoming a writer. And
Oh, what a great dad.
yeah, he was really a great dad. He was wonderful. And so, yeah, he was the one who put the idea in my head. I remember saying to him, he said, you love to write. I said, I do. Doesn't everybody? He said, are you kidding? Most people hate to write.
They hate to write. They hate to read. And I go, how
Right.
could you hate to read?
I don't know.
The world is opened up to you when you read, I love it. Well, how wonderful. And so,
Yeah.
so where did you go to school nearby, or
Well, I started out at UMass Amherst, and it was just too big for me, and I was all over the map and didn't know what I was doing. And I was in Florida visiting my parents, and my grandma lived to be 101. And that's when I had this conversation with my dad. And he said, look, there's a local college. It's not so local anymore, University of Tampa. They have a very unique writing program. It was in the paper the other day. You could take 2 courses. You could hang out here this summer with grandma, and you could take a couple courses to see how you like it. I never looked back.
That's so great.
I never looked back. I enrolled full-time in the fall, and it was fantastic. And it was a unique writing program. It was fabulous. And, just that's it. So
did you live with your grandma when you were going to school?
I did live with grandma. Yes,
That's
I did.
so cool.
I have to write about that sometime. And she was a hoot. And she lived a long, long time. Yeah. We were roommates.
Wow. I think there's a guy who's going around the country with his grandma. He's I just follow him and everything he does. And I think that is the coolest thing, because I think there's a unique relationship between grandparents and grandchildren. My grandson and I can't wait to take him on trips,
He's so cute.
We have so much fun together, and we really do. We really have a good time. And he's just like an old soul too. He just looks at me.
He looks like an old soul. There's something about his eyes and everything, and the way he in the pictures, he has that old soul thing going.
He gets me. He totally gets me. I don't have to explain anything. And my children, I'm always kind of a little bit of an embarrassment because they're very conservative, And I go, well, when you were little, you liked me. Well, they're coming back around. But anyway, I do dress a little different. And, they said, well, it's not every day that your mom comes to your school academic pep rally dressed as a leopard. I'd done a story time at the grade school and didn't have time to change. So I just hopped in the car and drove to the junior high. And my daughter's just going, oh my God.
Daughters are lovely. They're really they're lovely girls, young women.
I'm very proud of both of them, and they're both big readers, and I predict they'll be big writers one day. Right now, it's just too close to home, but I think your parents, you learn by watching what they do, and you pick up those things. Some of it is not good, and some of it can be great. But what did your dad do for a living?
Oh, well, see, this is it. My parents were math science people.
Oh
My
my God.
Yeah, my dad was an electrical engineer, and we're at General Electric, like this, involved with these
I knew that. I think you told
gigantic transformer things. And my mother was my mother was a mathematician. And
Wow.
yeah, she was way ahead of her time. And yeah, no, I'm a freak in my family.
Well,
That's why it was so particularly weird that my dad was like, you could be a writer. I was like, really? I had never thought of that. And that just still kills me. And I remember it when I talk to young people who have no idea what they're doing. And today there's more and more choices. It's more confusing than ever. And I said, well, no, you have to, sometimes it does take somebody to say, to point out, hey, you really like doing that. You're really good at that. And maybe you should try that. Sometimes I was like, oh, duh, didn't make the connection at all.
Nobody in my family liked school, and nobody finished. I was the first one in my family to finish college. Nobody really read, so I was the oddball,
Well, my parents read a lot, but they were nerds. This is how they met, was at General Electric. My mother was what they called a calculator. This was before the women who were called computers, they called them calculators. Like people like my dad would come up with an idea for like some kind of gigantic transformer that would like light up Raleigh, North Carolina or something. And then he would come up with the idea, and then he would give her, and her job was to come up with the specs, the mathematical probabilities. So my mother had a brain that was, my dad was very smart.
There's a story that would be interesting to tell.
Yeah. Well, my mother did a lot of stuff during the war that I'm still trying to find out.
That's
the American War effort. My first language was German, and she grew up in New York. And I'm finding out some things that she was involved with. I know that there were things she wouldn't tell me. But she was involved she went to Barnard, and they didn't have a physics department. So she went over to Columbia University to do her physics. And she was involved with calculations for aircraft, dropping bombs during World War II. They have to dive down at a certain angle, drop the bomb. Bomb's supposed to explode before it hits because it does more damage, right? And then the plane has to be able to take off without getting caught up in the bomb, right? Somebody has to figure this all out. Speed, it's a nightmare, right? Is that a nightmare? We're talking about geometry.
I can't even
nightmare. It's like,
imagine.
You leave the train station if you're trying those stupid word problems. I used to leave mine out. I would get up in the morning. My mother couldn't resist. Her little in pencil, all of my stuff. So she was like a 19-year-old girl, and she was figuring this stuff out. How fast, and then it would change the plane. It would add, they were always changing these things around, new guns and whatever. And the weight of this or that, and how fast and whatever. She was also a feminist. She was one of a kind.
I'd like to read that story. I really would, because I am clueless when it comes to, I just can't I didn't get the math gene or something.
I didn't get it at all. Just forget it. I got the gift of gab from Dad's Scottish side of the family. That's all I got. I didn't get any of that stuff.
Did you talk when you were little?
Yes.
Now see, I didn't talk at all.
My dad was a big talker, and he read to us all the time. Every night he read to my sister and me, and he acted stuff out. He was silly. If there were a cow, he would be mooing. And, he was very sweet. He was a very sweet man. He was in the war. He did his thing. They didn't need to go to the war. But anyway, so no, I'm an oddball. I mean, to be a writer was just like, what is?
There's nobody in my family that was ever any of what I did, anything I've ever done. Hairdressing, you know, that's what I did to put myself through school. That was kind of a survival tactic because, you know, when I dropped out of college to go to beauty school, my parents told me my sisters had to go. It was my turn to work and them to, and you could only make $1.19 at like McDonald's. And
Right.
how am I ever going to go back to school on $1.19 an hour? So I thought, well, if I learn a trade, you know, and so I watched a friend get a haircut at the local Redken Beauty School, and I thought I could do that. And they make good money, you know. Back then they did. Now, no, not at all. In fact, you know, all the shops have closed here since COVID. Nobody's doing hair. People are doing it at home. But I, you know, I had in my 20s, I made the most money I ever made in my life as a hairdresser. Because that's when the Farrah Fawcett and the Dorothy Hamill
Yeah,
all those, you had to go to a hairdresser to have, and frosted hair. And
yeah, right.
I worked in a college town near a campus, and I did all the fraternities and the KU basketball players and the coach. And it was great, but it was a means to an ends. It was never to me, but I've done it my whole life. And
It's good to have a trade like that, though. It's good. It's very good to have something to fall back on and do on the side.
Do you have any hobbies besides your dog?
Besides my dog, right? I have, I'm a bird watcher.
Oh, I like
I'm
that.
also a boater.
Are you?
The boat's not in the water
Sailboat?
right now. It needs, you know, when you own a boat, boats they're like children.
Yeah.
It's like having an old car. It's an old boat and I love it, but it's like pouring money into it, you know, it's amazing.
Like an old house. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like an old house and it needs work and there are not many people who can do the work on it.
Is it a wooden sailboat?
It is a wooden boat. It is a motorboat. It is a
Oh.
antique speedboat. It goes about 40 miles an hour. It was built in 1928.
Oh my God, I want to
It's
see it.
awesome. It's like it's beautiful.
We'll take a picture and share it on the blog,
Okay.
put it on the blog page. I mean, if you want to post some more, just email me and we'll put them up. But I'd
Okay.
love to see it. Do you go out by
Okay.
yourself or with your
Oh
husband?
yeah. I go out by myself. It's, you know, see, it was up at Lake George for a long, long time in upstate New York. My grandfather had it. And then my dad had it, and then I bought it for my dad from $1. It was, so I gotta sell it to somebody in the family for $1 at some point. And then we brought it down here, and it's more work to have it in salt water, you know.
Oh yeah, because it probably
You have
erodes.
to take it out all the time and everything. But that meant, so Blair and I both went to all these special courses. Neither of us had ever learned as much as we learned about tides and some of this. It was very interesting to do it together. But yeah, it's a fun hobby. Actually, it had this idea that I was going to get it back in the water up at Lake George, but with my brother's illness, I put it on the back burner, and because we were all four of us, there were 4 siblings, and now there are 3. We were going to go back to Lake George with the boat. That was our dream, and he didn't make it. So now that's part of why I haven't I don't know what I'm doing. I won't sell it, but I just haven't felt motivated to. But he has 2 sons, and one of them is really interested in the boat. So I just have to hang on to it for a bit. But it's a really cool thing to be involved with.
Take a photo. I want to see what it looks like.
Oh, you would love it.
Yeah.
It was called, it's a Chris Craft limousine. Yeah. It fits 9 people. It's not a working boat. It's for I don't know, going out on an excursion in your 1928.
It's a pleasure boat. Yeah.
It's just a pretty boat. It'll go about 40 miles an hour max. I haven't brought it up to 40 in a while because I'm afraid I'll
But
tear the whole
1928, so it's solid wood.
1920. It's almost 100 years old. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a beauty. It's a beauty. It's just a beautiful boat. So
You need to take it out on the 100th year and do a story.
yeah, that's a good idea. That's a new goal. I need a new goal. That's
That would be a good
goal. I
one.
need a new one. Yeah. Maybe
Well-
bring the next generation in on it and at that time, and you know, but we
I
grew up with that boat. We
love
lived,
it.
the boat was everything.
That's so great. Well, I just cannot thank you enough for taking all this time. We're actually running over, but
Oh.
before we go, I just wanted to, well, I thought I had it right here. I was going to show next week's book, but I don't have it right in front of me. I'll show it next time. But anyway, thank you, Amy. Tell Blair hi.
I will. I
I
will.
hope
Jeffrey,
this
thank you
goes well for you this year, and that
Thank
you
you.
surprise me and say, yes, I'm coming to Girlfriend Weekend, because your book will be up for the Pulpwood Queen. We have awards for our books on a Sunday night, and we vote in the fall. And by December 1st, I notify the winners when I count the votes at who won the books of the year. And we run it now like the Academy Awards. So it's going to be fun. And anyway,
Oh,
go ahead.
oh, is it online now this year?
Yeah,
Or is it going to be
It's
virtual?
going to be Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, what happened is I had authors go, well, if you made it Zoom, I could come. And so that's the reason why I've got all these people coming, big authors coming, because they go, oh, Zoom I can do. It's just hard to get to Texas if you're on the East or West Coast. But if you're Zoom, they can do it from their home office.
Right.
So we're going to have a really good time. And yeah, so think about that. It's always the weekend before Martin Luther King Day. And thank you for coming on board. And I'm looking forward to what's down the line. More stories. It's all about the story, right?
Right. And thank you for choosing Silent King the Monster. I really appreciate it. And Jeffrey, thank you for coming tonight and being part of it.
Oh, Jeffrey, are you
Yeah,
still
I
there?
enjoyed-
Yeah.
I
Is there any burning questions that you
He's
have?
there.
I forgot you were there. Go ahead.
No, I've enjoyed listening in, like a little, like a little secret in the corner, just listening in.
I love your libraries and your animals on your shelves behind both of you. Is there anything you want to ask Amy before we go, Jeffrey?
I was curious, you mentioned, Amy, that you think it's a great idea to write different kinds of books. And I wondered how you, who've written so many, how you, especially early on, differentiated yourself in the market, how people knew what to expect from you, and if that's even a good thing.
Sometimes in the book industry, I have found that there are some people who frown upon you moving around too much into different genres. But I have found that my books have never fit squarely into any one genre anyway. I mean, this book, there was a discussion online between, is my most recent book is it a historical fiction or is it a thriller? It's a historical thriller. Is it more of one or the other? Historical fiction people have kind of claimed it. But it's written with the pace of a thriller. So I never felt, my very first book didn't fit squarely into any genre, So I think at first it's a little daunting because you realize that you've got to market your new book to a different group of people, but not really. I'm never ceased to be amazed at the people who have followed me, who maybe they loved Having Her Say. I have tons of people still follow me from Having Her Say. But then for the Miss Dreamsville books, that's another whole chunk of people. And then various and sundry other books. And now as I said earlier, I never count on anything because you never know what's going to happen and how people are going to react to something. I'm really pleased at how many people really made the jump with me. And I've gone out of my way to, to make sure that I'm communicating with the Shark Week people, and I have been for quite a while. So I know a lot of them. And then, once I saw that certain parts of the state have been really, really excited about the book. And I mean, you just kind of follow the market, and then those people find your other books. And ultimately, if it's hurt me to move around a lot, because I've done nonfiction, I've done fiction, I've done middle grade. I mean, I've tried all kinds of stuff. Ultimately, I think I have the sense that people respect it because they see that you're just following you're pushing your talent, your skills. And so, I mean, it's not impossible to do. I mean, it also means that you are very flexible. I was able, as a newspaper reporter, I love doing general assignment desks because it was a challenge. It sounds like, oh, you're, general assignment, you're not specializing in anything. Actually, what it meant is you had to land on your feet and specialize in something at the last minute. Oh, guess what? You get to go cover the environmental meeting that's happening over on the Hudson River, and you've got to be up to speed on it. We didn't, of course, have the internet or anything. So whether it was a cop story, an environmental story, whatever it was, I had to land on my feet. You become a specialist, a mini specialist of everything. In a way that I feel like with books is similar. I think it's important that you really love the particular topic you're drawn to. And if you're not, one thing that can happen to people is if you stay too closely to one genre, you can be left behind if people get tired of it, or there's in some ways you can bring in new people by trying new things. I mean, it's riskier. I would say it's probably riskier. But there are different trends and things. I mean, if I were approached to write a nonfiction YA book or whatever, I could do it, or if I was asked to do another oral history, I could do it. I have different skill sets now that I've proven to keep me very current too. And I have a very wide group of people that I know, nonfiction and fiction and all age groups. And I love that. I love that. And I always meet another whole group of people with each book. I just like added to my life this whole other new piece of the world. And I learn from them, and it's great. So there's something to be said for doing it both ways. And you just had your first book published, right?
Yes, just this year in January.
Yes. Yep. I've got it on my reading list. I'm looking forward to reading it. I've heard wonderful things about it.
Thank you. I would love that. That would be honored. Thank you. And
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Got another one.
I do. I see Ragface Susie as the foundation of a 3-book story arc, and I have a very rough draft of the next book. But I've also written, it's very rough, but I've written a children's book as well, and I haven't shown it to my literary agent, but she's really eager to see it. So I've got to fix it up a little bit.
Good. It doesn't hurt to have a couple things going.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So yeah, I like the idea of, this is an interesting topic. I've talked to a number of people who have done 3-book deals. I've never accepted a 3-book deal. I've been offered 2-book deals, 3-book deals, and I've always turned them down. And my feeling is they're better off doing, I've never seen the gain from it, because if the first book does really well, you're locked in with 2 and 3 with this other publisher. Or conversely, if it doesn't do that well and you really don't like your publisher, You're stuck with these people, you know. I don't know. You can build 3 books that are a series without declaring that they're a series, you know. And just don't do them too far apart.
Got it. Very good advice. Thank you.
Yeah, so don't get too caught up with the children's book. Get back to the other one. But
I'm like you, though. I'm traveling so much this year that there's not a whole lot of time to write. I try to. I wrote a lot of Regularly Susie on my mobile phone. And so, you know, I've always got my little writing pad with me.
that's good. That's not a bad thing to do. I mean, I've sometimes with my phone, if I've thought of a sentence or something that's popped into my head, I'll send myself an email or a note or something. Usually as an email, so that way I definitely will remember to get back to it. And yeah, it does keep things going as long as you're thinking about it, right?
Yeah, yeah. It keeps the process going. You don't completely walk away from it. I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that Kathy's internet is frozen.
Oh, you're right. She's really frowning no matter what we say.
But we're having a good conversation. You were about to say something, and I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Come on, Kathy. That's fine. So you work full time, don't you?
I do. I work for the Library of Congress.
That's wonderful. How exciting is that?
It's wonderful. In September will be my 19th anniversary.
Oh my! That's really
top priority. That's, you know, that dictates my writing process, because that work is my highest priority, and I do love it. It's a wonderful place to be. I've got in a part of a team, the best team I've ever been among. So I really. So when you come to DC, please let me know.
Okay.
And I'll give you a really nice tour of the library if you're interested.
Oh, I would love that. I'll take you up on that.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to reading your book. It's moving. It's moving up. It's almost on the top of my reading pile.
I would love that. I would love that.
But I can see how you know, with a full-time job, it was very difficult to really make the time. But if you carve out an hour or two every day and you're serious about it, why not, right?
Yeah, well, when I was, you know, writing every day, and I'm still writing, but it's really difficult with traveling so much. But during the week, you know, when I commute, I telework some days. On the days that I telework, the time that I would spend otherwise going to the library, I spend that time focused on some form of writing, some aspect of writing. And then on the days that I go in, I write on my mobile phone on the metro.
Good, great. You know what? I think as long as you do it consistently, you know, it's sort of like if a half hour every day adds up.
It's a good.
It doesn't seem like it, but it adds up.
Yeah, it does. It does. And you exercise those muscles, I find, and you're productive. You know, it may not be the best work every day, but at least you're getting something in the paper. And I think that's showing up is half the work, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Well, that's really, I think, more and more a problem for a lot of people. It's just getting it together. I mean, I feel I've always been super organized, and I'm beginning to think that all those skills that came kind of naturally with my personality to just launch into things that interest me, and all of it comes together to make career work. You know, I would never have flourished in most types of jobs, I think. I found in the newspaper business, I often was the one who was doing a lot more than my job. You know what I mean? Carrying the weight of other people. So I've always been somebody, I mean, it's what I work for myself, you know, because I'm doing so many different things anyway. And I think that I've been saying to my nieces and nephews who are young, I've been saying to them, you guys are good writers and you love to read, you're going to go far. Because nobody in your generation is, they're not doing it as much. And you guys are leaving, you're going to leave everybody in the dust. And you're so organized, punctual, all that basic stuff that it really, you know, you hate it when your parents try to teach you all that. But I found, oh my goodness, I'm so glad over the years, when I think of how much work I've gotten done completely on my own, I have nobody breathing on my neck, you know. And it's all.
What do you attribute that to? Your success, your always going over and above. It's curiosity. What is it?
Curiosity is probably a good choice. And once I get engaged in something, and my whole family's like this, it might be hereditary. My brother, who just passed away from cancer, was a cultural anthropologist. And so we're all sort of, I think we're all overachievers in some way. Now just really love life and diving into something that interests us and giving 110%. And I think that's what you have to do anyway to survive in the world that we're living in. And you really, it's so crazy right now. I mean,
I know. You know, when you talk about all the work that you put in, it makes me wonder about your research process, because you've written about so many different things. How, and I actually got home late. That's the reason I signed on late. So I may have missed this, but did you do a lot of research on the front end or all the way through the process? What is your research process?
I usually do quite a lot of research up front. But I know from experience that there's no point, you can over-research, and people waste a lot of time in getting a book done by over-researching. You could spend 2 weeks on something that you really that doesn't make it into the final draft anyway. So I do a big push up front, and then I write, and I will just make a note in the text, you know, just flag it to myself that I need to come back. And if that stays in, then I know I'll come back and I'll spend a lot of time on it. It could be something as simple as what kind of hats the ladies were wearing in 1916, and I ended up spending 2 weeks on hats, you know what I mean? But if it's like U-boats, I had over-researched U-boats. I had to in order to actually get what I needed. But yeah, I will go back and research. And but I think I've known people who've researched, done too much up front, and slows them down. You can just get bogged down in it and go down a rabbit hole of something that you don't really, and then sort of lose the feeling you have for writing the material. So I kind of, you know, will go back and spend time doing research on certain things. If I'm just overwhelmed, like, and I want to keep writing, I'll just keep writing and mark it.
What is there? What kind of impact does, I guess, spending too much energy on research, what impact does that have on voice and having an authentic, not authentic, but
yeah, well, that's just it. I mean, you have to think about the research ahead of time. I mean, I was reading all these newspapers from 1916, and some of this, it's just, you could really get, just looking at the advertisements is hilarious, you know, and you can really get, and you figure, oh, well, this is all, it all counts because I'm absorbing the culture of the era, but I'm really probably not, I'm reading something that has nothing to do with what I should really be reading. Yeah, well, that's just it. Once you feel like you've got your voice, I say you keep going. Just, you know, I just make a note to myself I'll just write more, research in capital letters, boldface, and keep on writing. Because if I'm really on a roll and I have the voices down, why stop and spend, a week looking at wool bathing suits that people wore, it's great fun when you're ready to do that, then you have this whole list of stuff you're going to do and then you dive into it. But yeah, you don't want to lose that momentum that you have.
Yeah.
And then again, you might find you really didn't need to go into this. You might even cut a character or something out. So if you've spent weeks or even months researching something that you're not going to need. So I just sort of, I don't have a set way of doing it. I just kind of follow my instincts.
That's good. Glad to hear that. It's people who say that, I think their work is more not all work needs to be heartfelt or but it seems to be grounded in a way that getting too relying too much on the research. It's more a fiction book or fiction, you don't want to chronicle of what happened. That's not going to serve your story. So that's good to hear.
You can get really weighed down with delightful little facts that you really want to use that really take away from it if you're not careful. You ever read a book like that and you're like, that's they really shouldn't have put that in. It's wonderful, but it's an aside. Or you're reading it, it feels like they just dropped a whole, pile of facts on you in one paragraph instead of weaving it into, or having the characters have an argument about something where you learn the way that people behave rather than beating people over the head with it. It's using the research in a way that plays out, that feels relaxed, feels authentic.
Yeah, and you said something earlier that makes me think you are pretty comfortable letting stuff go that you've already written or something that you thought was going to be really central to the story. When you find that it doesn't work, or one of your two readers says, "I don't know about that." You always have that approach, and you've always been that comfortable with letting stuff go.
Yeah, I think so. I think being a newspaper reporter was really good training for me. And it made you had to make quick decisions and you had to live with it. And, sometimes they would come in and say, hey, you know what, we have a space on page 1 with your name on it and it's going to press. And you just have to do it. So there's a sense once you have that newspaper training that you got to move forward. You just got to keep going. To me, the biggest nightmare would be the people that I see who have been working on the same manuscript for like 20 years or something like that. It's just, oh my God, it's just the idea of it. It's horrifying to me. I mean, if they're happy with that and that's what they want to do, but I don't know how do you ever complete it if you're,
Maybe for some, it's not about completing it. It's about the act of doing it, and that's enough.
Right. It could be. I'm a completer, I guess. I mean, there's a point where I want it to be out in the world. So, it's funny, I met Kathy at, I guess it was Book Expo, and they were still doing that, Book Expo America at Jacob Javits Center in the city. And she is something else. She really is something else. She walked in and all the publishers were like, here comes, because she's powerful. If she likes a book, it makes a difference. And she knows what she likes. It's so interesting. And I met a lot of people, a lot of writers through her. She really nurtures a lot of people. So it's a great, I mean, I've just known her for quite a long time now. I was surprised that she picked my book in that I think she tries not to pick you know, she likes to bring in new voices.
Mhm.
So I wasn't sure, I told her I was writing it. She said, you have to send that to me. So I sent it to her and she loved it and she picked it for a bonus pick. I was surprised. I thought, I got the pick for January of 2012. So I thought that was my one shot at it, but I guess.
Really good at nurturing newer talent and then, highlighting the works of established writers. And I think that
Yes.
the readers, they like I guess, they like knowing that they can trust what's coming from a
Yes.
writer because
Right.
there's information,
That's right.
the work is going to be good. But also, something new in the mix too. I guess that's
Right. And that's so important too, I mean, I think it's always been hard to break in. I don't know, for the way things are right now, it's pretty wild. All the newspapers, not providing coverage, they're evaporating, right? They're disappearing. It's horrible. And
change in the world for people who have grown up with newspapers, and it's just one of those evolutions. It's a sad one, but yeah, it's not the way I would have had it work out, and I'm sure not you, having been a journalist in newspapers.
I'm worried about what it means for our democracy. I've been worried about that for a long time, and I am glad to see some nonprofits getting involved. We need more journalism and not less.
Citizen journalism, I guess.
Right.
Everybody's got a platform. Everyone can say whatever they want.
Right. I know.
Yeah, it's frightening.
It is frightening. The people who have no business saying anything, who have they're not thinking about anything, who just can get a platform, they're not contributing anything. So yeah, it's jarring. But it's also exciting to see the way you can connect with people on the internet. We're having a conversation right now that we could have had.
The Pulpwood Queen convention, all over the world. So there's a blessing in there someplace.
Yeah, yes, I think you're right.
I don't know if Kathy's going to make it back on.
I don't know. I think I don't know what earth is going on in East Texas with they have had the weirdest weather in the last couple of years, and she said that her internet is just totally messed up. So she's probably not. So we're probably running up her bill, come to think of it.
I think she probably has an account that allows for me.
So
it's recording. I assume it's going to go to the cloud, which she can. Yeah, it looks like it's recording to the cloud. I see the icon. So we should be fine, because I got a message saying that I'm the host now. So I'll watch for a message saying, should I let it go to the cloud, and I will. But you can get that.
That's funny.
It's a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope that, I hope you found it interesting and helpful. And, I feel like I all of a sudden became the old pro. I remember for a long time I was it's really weird when it happens. You're like, people were like, my God, you've got this massive bestseller. And you're like, it's 31 years old, but that was 30 years ago. So, but it's fun sharing what you know. And, oh, there goes my dog's barking. So I definitely have to get off.
Okay.
So,
Well, Amy, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting a chance to talk with you one-on-one as well.
Talk to you. So maybe we'll get together sometime, and I would enjoy that. So
Good night.
okay. All right, good night. All right, bye-bye.